Right.
So let's keep talking about AQs, and
Yes, sorry.
as we pivot to, so that's the test optional situation and all of that. And there are clearly, you know, here in California, the test blind situation. So I want to ask you the question that I think is more the future too, now with California. But what does it mean, quantifiable data? What's going to matter most? We've talked about in Dream College Academy and other places, we've talked about that, you know, the rigor of curriculum is going to rule the day. GPA is going to rule the day, at least for now, until they figure out what to do about testing. I don't really know. But what kinds of questions are you getting on your end, and how are you answering, you know, what students should be doing in high school?
I think number one, what we say to our kids is obviously you don't want to be taking, we like to start our kids early, right? So when they're entering ninth grade, we really like to have talks with the parents. And it's really about picking classes that also reflect your interests and then doing as well as you can. So you want to, if you're super into history, take AP, you know, AP World or take AP US and score the highest grades you can score. Those things are still very, you know, they're very relevant. And what we tell parents is, I don't want somebody stressed, but I want to see them in classes, the best classes that they can take for their capacity and their, you know, given what their after school activities are, because we're kind of balancing, right? Academics, the AQs against the commitment to sports or fencing or drama or whatever. And so we want to make sure the course load is nice. Like it, you know, we're on track to take either the best math, we're on track. The other thing, which people don't remember, on track to take Algebra 2 and Trig in junior year, if not earlier.
Absolutely.
You want to be tracking, you know, you want to have those things. And then of course, for your APs and all of that, the higher, the honors courses, the AP courses, that impacts your GPA. So you've got kids that are scoring, you know, that have 5.0s, 4.2s, 4.7s. I mean, the framework for how they grade is so different. I don't think that's really going to change, because guess what? I just read something. Harvard got 44,000 applications or something like that, which is double what they typically get. There was a great New York Times article. They're inundated because when they went test optional, guess what? Everyone went, great, I can apply now. That does not mean, they still are only going to take, I think it's 1,200 kids. I don't know what their class size is, but it's quite small.
I think their class size is 1,200, and I don't know. I think they take maybe 1,500.
Yeah,
sounds like
guess
a lot.
what?
Yeah.
They know a couple people might decide to go to Princeton over Harvard or Yale over Harvard, you know, whatever, because my cousin did, but they got inundated. So you can imagine, how are you going to stick? It's not how are you, those grades, you know, if you have a school that's IB, take the IBs. If you've got schools and you can track for AP classes, start taking them. Doesn't mean you need to take 5 a year, but I do, you know, I do like to see that you're stretching yourself and that you're taking, you know, high quality classes, especially now. Here's the deal. If you go to a high school, there's no APs, they will know that. That's the other thing. They know.
Right. I am still stuck on your 44,000.
This is why it's so important. This is why. How do they gauge, Cynthia?
So, I don't know how long ago, but if you remember, Harvard, and then I think quickly Yale and Princeton followed, where the floodgates opened. If you were a family that made under $150,000, you basically could go to school for free.
Oh yeah.
At least 3 schools. And they thought that the floodgates would open and all of these students would apply. And that didn't happen. But this year, test optional, and everybody applies.
Oh, I know.
I really want to point out that for all that we've been through this past year, and we've talked about, we being the greater we, America, it's talked about in the Black Lives movement, Black Lives Matter movement, the education gap, because people are, you know, don't have internet, don't have computers,
Right.
haven't been able to, is the education gap widening? This has exacerbated all of that. So be very clear. I want to be very clear, and I don't want to mince my words, and I don't want to dance around the subject anymore.
Right.
Those who applied to more colleges are those who already were on track to apply to those types of schools. They typically live in neighborhoods where the percentage of families and parents that have degrees are higher than not, et cetera. The household income is higher, all of these things. So be very clear, everyone, that when we're talking about should you be taking the exam, the very students that applied to throw their hat in the ring to more colleges, more highly competitive colleges, are the very students we're talking about. So that's who you're competing with, and that's why we say, again, 44,000, it doesn't mean that Harvard's now going to take the kid that scored, 1,000 on their SAT.
No.
No.
Yeah.
The only way that you become a more competitive applicant, because you have one of the hooks, you're underserved student, you're a legacy, or you're a recruited athlete. If you're already qualified to go to that institution, great, that's going to help you. But if you weren't already qualified to begin with, that's not going to help you. So the test score is just another piece of the puzzle to help you get across.
Yes, I call it to qualify, so that they think that you belong, that you're not going to be struggling to keep up with the rigor. And I think people forget that. They don't want somebody flaming out of, and not surviving at Harvard. That's not how they roll. That's not what these colleges are after. And it doesn't mean that if you don't have the grades, well, now you can apply. That might be what people have thought, and that's why they got flooded, but I don't think that's what happened. And I think it's just, you're right, the more resourced kids that were concerned about, maybe, there's kids that we work with where they're really great test takers on the standard tests, like taking the AP exam, they're going to score a 5 on AP history. But when they take that SAT, they're not a high scorer. Sometimes there's a disconnect when they take a more standardized test, and for whatever reason, it's a very interesting thing. Those people, I think, are the ones that are now applying, right? People that felt, well,
right,
I couldn't get a 1450. I only got a 1390. Okay, I'm still going to apply. But I still think, it's going to be an interesting road to understand. And look, things are changing. The SAT 2 doesn't exist. So guess what that means? You only have a few areas to really shine. Again, right? SAT 2 was a great way to take a test and show your interest and your mastery of a subject, particularly if you'd already taken an AP, right? AP Lit, then they take SAT 2 Lit. You could get another score. It was another way to shine. They've removed that. I mean, I think it's good, because most people don't know this, but I don't think kids were signing up to take it as often. And then the other thing I think is really relevant is there's no longer an SAT essay.
Yeah.
So it's really just about the multiple choice test. So if you were a great writer, it's going to be an interesting world to see how they really differentiate. But I always tell my students, don't think of it as a gift. It's like the field has narrowed. There's fewer ways to shine. And I think in this world, we all have such different gifts. It's really about, seeing where you're going to shine and pulling those pieces together. And that's how you tell that, as you call it, the personal story. But I think those AQs are part of it, because I know, I even asked you this question. I said, I've got a kid we have a student that is really into robotics and computer science and CS, and his mom wants to know if he should be, even though he's doing a lot of CS on the outside, should he be taking as much CS stuff on campus? And I thought, well, if he can get really great grades on the CS, it's just this beautiful way to show, focused interest in an area.
Yeah, totally. I don't know that I've ever admitted anywhere publicly, but I'm not a fan of doing away with the testing. And I think maybe because I'm jaded, because I've been on the other side of the private school, I just think that no matter what you do, those who will figure out a different way. And at the end of the day, we need to have something apples to apples to compare to.
We do.
And the grades from there are 30,000 plus high schools. That means there's 30,000 plus ways of teachers who are,
Right.
how to give grades. So your A is not the equivalent, so I don't know what the future is, but as the UC system will have to navigate that, because the very same thing happened to the UC system. There were 3 schools that were going to still allow you to submit, and then the court case and all of that got all changed, and they were inundated as well.
And I don't necessarily think I don't know. I mean, will this really level the playing field? That would mean, so then we're going to have to take away every advantage. So that means, because there are disparities, there are natural disparities, but I don't think that should ever stop somebody, right? We've worked with kids from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds. And I think if you have grit, you're going to get there. And there's this forget Malcolm Gladwell, or I forget where I read this, but he talks a lot. It's like, if you're a winner, wherever you start, you're going to get there. You're going to get there. So
you have to have that mentality. You maybe have to have found a mentor. But to your point about, is this going to level the playing field? I think that in many ways, I mean, I haven't thought this through, so I'm kind of throwing a little bit of spaghetti at the wall as we brainstorm together and just sort of navigate this conversation. But I think that that's what people thought, right? Like, oh, we'll do test optional, we'll do test blind, and that will level the playing field. And I'm like, that's just putting a Band-Aid on it. We're not fixing the system.
Yeah, the system is inherently flawed.
Is inherently flawed from the get-go. Correct. So if I get to senior year and you tell me now I don't have to submit my test scores, that doesn't remove the fact that I wasn't given the same quality education as my peers from another school district. That doesn't fix that. Even if you give me a seat at the table, I still may not be able to get through all 4 years successful.
This is what I'm saying. So listen, because
what are we doing?
No, because here's the thing. I also work with a lot of private schools. We donate hours, or we do different things. We do scholarship programming and things like that for kids that are put into private schools, transitioned out of the public school system, but they come in with no skills, right? So they're really struggling. And so what I say to all parents is, the most important thing isn't where you start. It's like how you navigate the road. And the focus should be, how can I imbue my child that's entering into 9th grade with the right skills so that they can take advantage of whatever is on campus. And it doesn't matter, right? It is about the skills. It is about, because what I see is, then you get to, okay, great, you got into Harvard. Are you ready? Great. But you're right. I just think we've never really leveled the playing field. And I don't know that there's a quick and easy answer for that right now, because they have to solve the systemic issues in, the whole system.
Right. And that's a bigger conversation.
That's a bigger conversation.
And a lot more people would have to agree to compromise. And I mean, so many things would have to happen for all of that. We are short on time, but listeners, you can see why literally, over dinner, I think we try to, we always talk professional stuff. We always talk the biz. We try to solve the problems of the world. Then we talk about personal stuff. And before you know it, I mean, it's a long night. This is a conversation that I enjoy having, but I feel so helpless of like, how can I help that bigger issue? So Candice, I want you to have an opportunity, wrap up soon, but to share, who you are and how people can find you, what you offer, and
sure.
your one biggest tip that you have for our listeners?
Yes. So my name is Candice Lapin. I am the founder of the Ladder Method. We are a learning and executive functioning skills coaching company. So we don't just work on the subjects, we really teach kids how to learn. So all the really important academic skills, and we do that even when we're tutoring the SAT and ACT. We're not just tutoring, we're giving you skills. We're giving you skills to be more effective on those tests so that you work more efficiently. You don't have to put in as many hours. You can really streamline the process and get to the goal score as quickly as possible. I think what people probably know me for in LA which is a little known secret, but I also have been very well known throughout my career for taking kids that are, I think, in academic distress. So kids that are failing 2 Ds, 2 Fs, and I turn that kid into an A student. So I'm like the turnaround queen. So if you are a child that's like, oh my God, I need support, I feel like there's something missing, or like I don't have all the pieces, that's really what we do. We give kids those pieces, and I work with a lot of kids that have learning differences that have been told, oh my God, you're struggling here, and they come to us a little defeated, and we help reframe that mindset. So very passionate about habits, routines, and the good study skills, because I think what we do with kids is there's an easier way. You don't have to work. We don't have to be spending 5 hours doing homework. We can do it in less time, happy time, and then get you back to what you like to do, which space, so you can hang out with friends free.
Yes. Oh, you froze there for a hot second, but I think we
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. Okay. My goodness. Yes. Girl after my own heart. Habits, routines. Just love that. I'm on
habits and routines. Yes.
Yes.
I think
we talked about Tom Brady the last time we decided, like,
oh my God, the man,
the greatest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, my friends. Well, we have shared some tips and some truths, real truths. I'm going to recap for you and give you the basic truth here. The first, hopefully you walked away with, is number 1, know your competition. Number 2, get a second opinion, because you can and will rise to the occasion. But my favorite tip today from Candice is really what I will say is the truth. The truth is, in terms of AQs and testing, we cannot know where we're headed, right? We're all in sort of this murky waters of where are we going. All you can control is control what you have ownership of, and that is you. So it is not about where you start, as Candice says. It is how you navigate the road. It's all about your skills and deciding which skills you're going to build and which ones you're going to offer up to the colleges as evidence that you can and will survive as a great student and a great contributor of that institution.
Yeah.
So with that said, hold on right now, Candice, we're going to wrap up and then we'll say goodbye. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you, listeners, for joining the conversation. We know you have a busy and full plate, so thank you for spending time with us here at Destination University. Now, if you want a free gift just for me saying thank you, please go to my website, drcynthiacolon.com, and you have 3 options to choose from. So choose the one that's most appropriate for your team. If this episode has in any way fueled your confidence or helped build your dreams, please share this episode with 3 people in the next 30 minutes. And if you're feeling extra loving today, please subscribe and/or write a review. It sure does help our other listeners find us. And my mother will thank you in advance for subscribing and writing the review. She loves it. Remember, you can join the conversation on our Facebook group, Destination University, for all parents, no matter the age of your teenager. Join the conversation and get the inside scoop. That's all I have for you today. I'll see you next Wednesday at noon Pacific for another episode of Destination University. We're in season 4. And until then, wherever you are, may you have a happy and sunny day. Bye for now.